Hi, everyone.
Hey, Feynman.
Hey, Samir.
Hey, we added some agenda items. I'm not sure if you have added any agenda items lately here. We were just adding some the last 5 minutes. If you haven't looked at them yet.
Not yet. Hello,
Okay.
Samir.
Hey. Hey. Oh, Sajay, you're here. Good to see you.
Hello. Just got back from
Hello,
vacation.
Sajay.
Oh, nice. So we have a couple of people from AWS side or from have joined here as well, who normally you don't see them. Arun and Michael. This is for an agenda item that Shiva, I was asking you about. If possible, we can cover that first so that Michael can be unblocked. So this was the request I sent over the weekend regarding work which needs to happen in Aura's Go libraries that we can bring inside notation for notation to work with the latest spec of the ORAS. Michael and I looked at the response you gave. As per you, there are 3 open tasks out of which one is closed. And I think what I was looking for is the estimate on the remaining 2 tasks as to by when they'll complete. And if Michael has any more questions, if this is the complete list or he has some other ideas for other things we need to do in ORAS Go libraries to make notation talk to ORAS implemented libraries. Michael, any more thoughts on that?
Basically that. I guess we also have I think we'll have some like a new developer sort of ramping up, that if there are some tasks that we can pick up, we'd love to help.
Okay.
So Nima will hopefully join maybe next one, or maybe you'll just see him on issues. But
yeah, so Shiva, if you want to talk through those 2 remaining issues or explain why you think only those 3 tasks are what's needed to bring in the appropriate ORAS Go libraries for notation.
Yes, because notation Go only use a subset feature of the ORAS Go. So that's why we only need a subset of issues.
Okay, so I think you had said 188 is implemented. I put that in the list if people are not looking at the entire. Let me put the agenda link here. You can scroll down, Michael. You can look at those 3 issues. So you said number 188 is fixed. So only 140 and 175 are remaining. Is there a, can you give me a time as to by when these will be completed?
Yeah, so if we are now in a very, very urgent hurry state, then I think before next week. Yeah.
For next week. So by the end of this week, then.
Yes, because we need to do test.
Okay.
Coding is fast, but we need to do a test.
Okay, so coding complete by end of this week and then testing after that. For both of those items, number 140 and number 175?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, okay. Okay, I think that's what we needed to know. So, but doing this doesn't affect the other work we were hoping you to do. Like you got 2 separate developers on these, or we are robbing Paul to pay Peter here?
Pardon?
Like, will this work affect any other work your team was working on the notation client?
No, because they are different persons. So I mean, they are different developers. They are okay. Yeah.
Okay, that helps. So good. So you have helped me answer my first question. Michael, you have any follow-up to what Shiva just said? I have nothing else.
No, not I. Well, I mean, that's awesome. That sounds like we're in pretty good shape. What would be the best if we like? Do you need help with other stuff outside of those issues? What's the best? Are there like issues that would be good to just kind of like, as he's ramping up, point him towards?
Shiva, I guess that question is for you. Like,
there's the 2.0. I mean, there's a lot of work to do. So
okay, great.
We'd love to help. We'd love to help. There's the 2.0 milestone there. There's you know, quite a bit of work there, but I would definitely defer Shiwei, since he would have an idea best of what he thinks might be good tasks to pick up there.
Cool. Yeah, I saw some of them were tagged as like good first issue, but it seemed like most of those had been assigned. So
Shiwei? Are you
Yeah.
there? Oh,
Yes, I'm there. Yeah.
So I don't. If you
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
ideas now, great. But otherwise, maybe it's something that you two take offline and hash out.
sounds
Yeah,
good.
so, yeah, I think we can talk offline. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Okay, I think that takes care of the item I had in mind. Next one was, I was requesting if we can agree on some kind of a daily Scrum update. David, you and I talked about it last time, saying, hey, we are in the final throes of finishing of RC1. You know, a weekly or bi-weekly cadence is not enough. Can we get a daily Scrum update of all items? And I can bring up the Notary task list, or Feynman can bring it up, and we can walk down the task list, see the progress we have made since last week. But how can we get a daily status update on items we are working or not working on?
So I mean, I think this is where, you know, having the appropriate board and the items being on the list, and then you'll just see the updates. But then the other factor would be actually starting to have some form of iteration sprints that we commit to. So then that way we have hopefully a kind of a ship cycle of some sorts, and that I think also helps kind of track things.
Yeah, so I'm okay to move to that if that will help us get daily updates. But what work is required? Like, is that something, Feynman, have you already converted the Notary task list that we were capturing in a spreadsheet into a task board that we can get, all teams can, or all assignees working on it can update it?
Yeah, actually, almost those items that have been assigned to Shui's team have been migrated to the GitHub project board, except for some new items that we created last week. Yeah, I think the other part is the work items that have been assigned to Millions team. We need to confirm and double check if all of those items have been created in GitHub, and then we can correlate all of those items to that board. Yeah, I think we can use GitHub project board to track all of those items soon, maybe from this week.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't have the bandwidth to convert all of Million's item into tasks. But if you could do that for me, that would be great. And I can work with Million to make sure we report on status on all of them daily. I can take that action item if you can convert them into wherever you've put the other items from Shiva's team.
So as for the daily Scrum update, what should we focus or pay attention to for this result?
I think every item in the notation RC1 list that we have, I'm referring to the spreadsheet. I think we have 25 items which are called out there, and of which about only 10 are still outstanding. So those 10 or 12 items should be in that daily Scrum update. I'm referring to this list. Like, let me share my screen. Maybe I'm talking too vaguely here. I think some other people on the call may not have seen this. I'm referring that every non-green item on this list. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Yep.
it.
Yes.
So I am saying every item which is not colored green out to me is an open item we should be tracking and trying to get a daily update if we have made progress or if we are blocked on that. And because at this point, we should be tracking each one of these on a daily basis is my proposal.
Amir, do you want to share just that window? I can see your full screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if what I was sharing.
You're sharing your picture.
Oh, am I? Good. Am I looking handsome in that?
Yeah, you do.
Thank you.
Dapper.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
always an effort.
Yeah.
Screen two.
So yeah, so it feels like kind of like almost like a daily like 15-minute stand-up is almost kind of what we're trying to get at.
I think so. Just a quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a recommend. And Feman, I know I'm leaning on you to, put all of these tasks wherever you've put the other ones, and then we can just start doing a daily sync on those items.
Does the majority feel like a daily is what we need, or I mean, coming from, we're weekly now? Should we go to like every other day, or is daily work for people? I'm asking because I've seen this before. Everybody says yes, and then nobody can actually make a daily commitment. So
Good
I want to
call.
make sure it's realistic.
Good call.
It might be, I don't know, just an idea I'll throw out there is we kind of alternate time zones, like, 15-minute meeting in the morning one day, and then 15-minute meeting towards the evening the next day. And then, that helps with, if you make it every other day for the time zone that works for you, then.
That means you basically have 2 meetings, one after the other, one in the morning, one at night, and one in the next morning. So it's like you didn't get anything done. So.
Yeah, you would then, I guess, kind of back to Jesse's suggestion, you wouldn't necessarily attend the morning and the evening one. You would probably do every other day or something.
Well, that's the question that's out there. Do we have things we need to discuss and just touch base on for daily team?
Well,
I think, yeah, as for the daily Scrum meeting, I think it might be a little bit harder for people in Asia, since we have another appointment and or meetings at that period. We only have maybe 2 or 3 hours overlaps, and all of them are full of meetings. So I think it is hard for us to find a short period to have this meeting every day. So how about sync up all of those items in text or some other types? Yeah, I think the purpose is to confirm the high priority risks for RC1.
okay.
Does that make sense?
There is another thing you're trying to do, which is you're trying to be able to shift resources fast to go and help out the problem areas.
I think at least for Shui and me, it is quite hard to find a time to have a short Scrum meeting every day.
Well, I think what we're
especially
proposing.
we cannot have a Scrum every day for early morning. That's not sustainable.
Have conflicts in the same period, the same time. But
Okay.
I think.
Well, the first thing I have to ask you is the other meetings, are this list really high priority because you're trying to ship? So the question is, do those other meetings trump this? Like having one of you show up is better than nothing.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
My question is, if you have other meetings, since this is the thing we're trying to ship right now, are they higher priority than a daily Scrum?
So I think the meetings that, correct me if I'm wrong, Finman and Yi and Shuwei, but mainly the meetings, the time zone that there's overlap is around this time now, 4:30 to 6 or whatever, and then that has a conflict with like this meeting and another one, but yeah, I don't know. It's still a valid ask. As if there is a 15-minute time slot in your morning, which would be our evening, that would be there for 15 minutes.
I think Jesse's question still stands, which is, do we have enough content to meet daily, or is it every second day that makes sense?
Okay, it feels like I stirred the pot on this one. So let me try to see if I can unwind the clock on this one. So we're meeting twice a week already, Monday evenings and then Thursday mornings. maybe what we do is we just, Feynman, from your side, you give a status update in that project board for every item. If when's the completion date for that item? I think that's the way we should measure, not as to how much effort is remaining, but what is the target completion date. We started in this column at the start date. If you can adjust the board to reflect what is the completion date for that item, the estimated completion date, and we all look at each other's board or a common board every day and ask questions to each other over Slack. Let's just do that and just continue meeting twice a week as we are meeting then. So you said you have already converted all of Shive's team items into tasks in a project board. Let's go ahead and add a column in there saying, what's the expected completion date of that task?
That's already there.
And
That's already there. End date.
That's already there. Okay, the end date. So let's add all of the remaining items in there as well. And I'll take it on myself to update our items as quickly as we can, and let's do the same thing there. So all of us have visibility into expected completion date of all the other open items. Is that acceptable? Let's just do that then. So Feynman, if you can just point me to your project board and where you have added all the other items, and I'm requesting if you have time to add the remaining ones as well, that's great. If not, then we'll try to do it.
Yeah, I think maybe we need 2 or 3 days to finalize all of those remaining items and make sure all of them are tracked in the GitHub project board. Since we are also figuring out the user scenarios this week, and I think E and David might share it with you maybe tomorrow or later. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. So by Thursday meeting, we will have this project board up and running where we can check each other's. We can just refresh and get an update on each other's or all the open items. Okay, sounds good. Let's agree on that then.
Yeah, we're also.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there a way to get the end dates before? Basically, I didn't want the project board or setting up the project board and setting the issues in it to be blocker towards getting just the raw data, which is getting effort or end dates. Can we add a column in this spreadsheet and get started with that?
Sorry, Milan, could you rephrase your question? You mean add a column to track when will all of those items could be done? Is that right?
Yeah, in the spreadsheet itself. Could we start with the spreadsheet version?
How about add a column in that project board? I think
we already have the column. Yeah, we have everything. We have everything that's already there in the spreadsheet that's already there on the board. So there's a start date, there's an end date. I added priority, which isn't on the spreadsheet, but there's effort weeks. I mean, I think the only thing that is not there is the level of headings in the spreadsheet. So you kind of have like these buckets in the spreadsheet of like signing, right? Like, and for that you can, you could use labels or tags, or, we're actually gonna, Feynman, Yi, and I are gonna come up with an approach for kind of tracking things that span many items so that there's an easier way to visualize that and present that.
Okay, this is better. I hadn't seen this before. I think we had been working, or I hadn't seen this view before. So the work that is remaining is populating the start date, end date for all of the tasks.
Yeah. So if you look at the spreadsheet, the Notary V2 task for implementation, if you go back to that, Samir, there's a checkbox for migrated. So if you go to the migrated item, you should see that item on the board has the same or more data. So meaning like we should have the start date. We should show that Shiwei is the owner of that item. We should see the duration of that. So effectively, in my mind, when I've clicked the X on the migrated, we know that all of the same data is represented in the board that's in the spreadsheet. So I think Fim and Yi, I think it'd be good to just do a sanity check on all the items that are there listed on Shuei's chain and make sure that we have the start date, the end date, and you know, then we can click on the X on the spreadsheet to denote that, yeah, it's there's no more reason to track it on there.
One suggestion, David, on that planning board, can you show the board again?
Yeah.
Yeah, can we agree on the label? I see the RC1 label. They are also low. Can you scroll down?
Yeah.
Another.
Yeah. So this is a really good point. Yeah. So that the name, the milestones. The milestones are named slightly differently across the different projects. And so I did some of the work to start to try and align whatever we want to call that. Obviously, it is possible that you'll have different names. It's possible that you might have different names, but this is a good point to bring up to the group, which is, can we, let's say, all agree on, you know, what milestone labels we want to track to. You know, you've got artifacts RC1, you've got RC.1, you've got Notary V2 :RC1. In my mind, it'd be best if we all just stuck to one thing, unless we think that there's, you know, good value in, you know, have like certain things being broken out.
No, I think let's stick to one milestones. I will suggest you use the milestone names as coming from the roadmap repo, because that's the one we have been using as our North Star. So let's use the milestone names in the roadmap repo.
Okay.
So Milan, based on the questions which were answered, is there any item on the spreadsheet you would like to get a date now, and you don't want to wait till Thursday on those items? Is there any item you would like to get a date today on the list here?
I think the registry authentication number 17.
Number 17, yep.
So I think the question was, I think initially we have probably had 2 weeks of effort on this, and the start date was a week earlier. Wanted to check if the work has started on the registry authentication, or basically the status of this item currently.
Shive, question for you.
Yes, so Bimi is working on it.
What is the expected completion date on this?
That's next week, because it involves the Docker. That involves the notation logging, and basically we need to implement the Docker CLI part in the notation.
Okay, the Docker credential provider protocol. All right, and the refactoring the registry interactions into Notation Go, I think that is in progress. I think initial version was already moved into Notation Go, and I think there's another PR with renames, etc. Right? For number 16.
I think there's a PR and that has been merged.
There's feedback from Rakesh around renames, etc. Rakesh, did all of those get resolved? Yep. Is that a separate PR?
I think the comments have been addressed and that PR was merged already.
Okay, so from a registry interaction perspective, except for authentication, that code is moved into Notation Go in the form that we want.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I think the code requires some unit testing done. I don't think the existing code has any unit tests. I think maybe there is some some more work there. Is that correct, Shiva?
Yes. We probably need to have the functionality done first to unblock you guys, and then we have the test.
Okay. So at a minimum, Rakesh, if there are kind of post implementation or future tasks, you can create issues against them so that we don't lose tracking for it. Let me see if there's any other tasks that I wanted.
The directory structure one, is there line number 23?
Right.
Looks like that is supposed to start on 6/21. Are there any updates?
It's need more time because we are doing design first and then do coding, and Jinji is working on it.
What will be expected completion date on this? Just curious.
Yeah, the other one. Okay. Completion next week.
So I'm saying 7/4 plus 7/11 is 7/11, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The spec has been approved on this, right? What is the remaining design work, for my understanding?
Shiva, question for you.
Okay. I think there's a follow-up issue for the design spec. Let me find the issue.
If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm just changing the color coding because this color coding was done at one time to communicate that we may change these names, but I don't think so. We need that color coding anymore. Okay, good. Just white and green and pink. Nice.
That's issue 203. Let me paste the link into the chat window. That's about the system or user file directory precedence. So we need to do discussion first and then do the spec.
Yeah, this was.
Go ahead, Melon.
Yeah, that is a specific aspect of how user versus system take precedence if both are specified. But we can. It's not a blocker to the rest of the implementation. Just noting that we can start on the implementation. This piece, for which we created the issue, just says if both are specified, and I think we said there are certain scenarios where we want admins, where we want to allow admins not to have the user role override trust stores, how we can support that scenario. So I would say if we have resources available, we should not wait for this issue to get resolved. We can start with the implementation. The rest of this is a layer which will get added on to the rest of the implementation rather than cause churn in it.
Shiv, any questions on that?
As long as it's not a blocker, then I think it's okay. We can update the code later once we address this issue.
Yeah. Similarly, like for example, with registry auth, we created an issue for local credentials, right? But the rest of the implementation can continue.
For the local credentials, Feynman and Yi, do you want to have some comments on it?
You mean the local key?
Yeah, we can get to that in the end. I have an agenda.
It's not local key, it's the local credentials. So basically, if we require a credential helper, then however, notation does not come with a credential helper. So in that case, what the user should do? Do the user need to install Docker first, then install notation? Then we have a dependency on Docker.
My suggestion there was, I think I created an issue for that. To give me a second, people that up. That we ship with a minimal Docker provider which supports environment variables, etc. I'm fine with any option other than notation itself having inbuilt support for a local file where credentials are stored unencrypted. We can ship with a minimal script that acts as a Docker credential provider and can pick from environment variable.
And also, if you download and use the latest Docker desktop app, you'll find that all the Docker credentials are pointed to the desktop app, and it's a wrapper for the credentials like WinCrate or OSX stuffs, and you will see that. On Mac, if you don't turn on the Docker app, then you cannot use the credential helper. So basically, if you want to use the credential helper, you have to turn on the Docker desktop. On Windows, it's okay. You can just turn off the Docker desktop and use the credential helper. And for Linux, I don't think Linux comes with a Docker credential helper. And thus Linux will just use the file-based one.
Right. So let me share the issue related to it. That was one of the agenda items. I think it is this one. 206. Let's open that. Yep. Samir, can you open that one? Issue 206. So that is the issue that we created against the registry auth spec. There are two options. In the absence of configured credential provider, which means only the Docker compatible one, have all the commands that interact with registry, specify the username and password. We already have support for this. In Sign, I don't know if it is there in Verify 2. The other is notation ships with a minimal credential provider that is Docker compatible and uses environment variables. And we ship this, we provide this as a script, and users can copy, modify, they can do anything. But I'm not in favor of us supporting the unencrypted local credential file as an inbuilt in notation itself.
I see. I think that makes sense. So basically, we don't support credential files. If the user does not have a credential helper, then they can only use the username and password passed in from the environment variable or from the command line. Right? Yeah. That makes sense.
What's the harm of a credential file in that case? It seems like you have just as many issues with having to pass that in
It-
as an
it
environment
puts
variable.
the-
Or
We cannot store the credential file in plain text on the disk.
Why not?
We can, why not? Because it's less secure. I'm not saying that it's totally not
Sure,
secure.
but I think most
yeah,
people
sure.
run. My understanding is most people who are running Docker servers are probably using a file on those servers to store temporary credentials.
I think what we don't want to do is create another mechanism which allows you to store credentials unencrypted. Customers today might be using either a Docker credential provider or similar mechanism that goes to file, or they use Docker credential provider along with on Windows or Mac where it has a secure provider
Mhm.
or environment variables, etc. And it puts the ball in the customers or users' court on how they fetch the credentials from a secure source and set it as environment variables or pass it as CLI parameters. Instead of notation having an inbuilt support for unencrypted on-disk storage of credentials.
But if someone is running Docker on like a build server, aren't they typically using a credentials file somewhere? Like already? Shouldn't we just use that too?
So the question, isn't this tied to the one remaining issue that we had out there for PKCS 10 and so forth, as to whether we wanted to even do the local experience for RC1?
No, this is so that was key encryption. This is registry credential encrypted, or like what is the registry credential experience?
I mean, it seems like you're trying to put rails on an existing registry authentication workflow, which we all admit is not great. Where sort of a default disposition is to have credentials in plain text on the disk, but that's not necessarily Notary's domain, right?
Yep. I think the username password suffices for RC1. It's already supported in some form for some commands, so we'll have to look at what additional commands that interact with registry need to support it. And if we want to do the minimal credential provider, etc., yeah, that can be post RC1. That is my suggestion here.
I think, Michael, if this isn't your call out, I will have my own, but I might be amplifying yours. We don't want to break existing workflows, right? Where, I mean, we've seen other tools fall into this, where Helm and et cetera, other tools just simply use the same credential workflow. I'm not super passionate about this, but I think Michael has a good call out here. Like, I don't know if this is something that you want to block on.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to put up like artificial, I don't know, or unnecessary friction where if someone has a server that is set up to push and pull from a registry, they should be able to just like start using notation, and it should be able to get those credentials in a similar fashion as much as possible.
So the existing on-disk credentials, is there for example, I see a auth.json here, which I don't fully understand. Is there a standard format across different registry tooling that is used for local credentials?
Yeah, I imagine it's just what Docker did. I'm
Yeah,
not saying this is the perfect solution, but I think it is the one that everyone is using.
It's not the perfect solution, but that's why we do it. That's why we do it, right? Like Helm is a good example.
But it's consistent.
Yep.
I guess then,
if you want to just go with user pass, that's okay for now. I just think I think users will expect it to work like a Docker client works. And I think that Michael is correct. Like a Linux box just running somewhere is probably just using flat file credentials.
Should we support that as a, I mean, that I understand. I understand the feedback. We could add support for existing file if you had. Wouldn't be in favor of having, like, for example, there's a config/notation/auth JSON. That kind of makes it a notation supported file. I know there may not be too much difference in these two approaches. If we wanted the command line parameter or a config setting that points to an existing file, that I think I'm fine with that, given the feedback that you're giving, that everybody uses this Docker defined local unencrypted credential file.
Am I recording our discussion right? Is there some other data you want to add here so that previous team has clear direction on how to go about it?
So I'm questioning that for the work item defined in the spreadsheet, does it need to implement the credential file or not?
Jesse, you are our resident registry expert here.
Michael or a half a dozen of the rest of us too. I mean, I think it would be fine if you could also just choose, user pass. Like, I think somebody just called that out, like Helm as a config. It also has user and pass options, right? So I think what I'm trying to relate is that needs to be something that's predictable. And if this is something that we're not overcommitting, right? That's cool. I don't think that it's Notary's job to change a typical registry authentication path. That's all.
Because two spec affects the implementation. So if we support credential files, we probably can reuse some code from the Docker CLI, but we will have Docker CLI dependency in the notation Go. But if we don't support credential file, then we need to not rewrite, that's write the Docker CLI part in the notation Go. But anyway, if we don't want the Docker CLI dependency in the notation Go, we need to rewrite the config part by ourselves anyway.
Yeah, and maybe that's where you start with user pass, and we can this is there a spec for this, or is this kind of an implementation detail of the client where
it's purely implementation detail, but
yeah,
I guess we still need to let the notation Go to implement what's already implemented by the Docker CLI, because the auth config is completely tied with the Docker config. So if you use a newer version of Docker CLI with a lower version of notation, then it may cause problem. That means some fields will be lost if we do notation login and log out.
has their config file changed? Is that
yes? Yeah, it's possible.
Well, sure.
Anything's
It is.
possible.
I mean, that's a fair call out. It is possible, right?
Yeah,
and
I guess so.
I think I think I'm leaning toward a user pass. I don't know, like having those options seems like the safest route, which is how I think how a lot of people use Helm, to be honest. I think Sajai had called that out, and you might have people using Podman or Rancher or some other tool, and maybe parts of these, I mean, they are it all does go to the sort of de facto default thing, but I probably were over rotating on this. It seems like a dash username and password makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think username password along with the Docker credential provider compatibility, I think that is a good set for RC1. All right.
Cool.
Okay, I'm recording what we just discussed. Then let me know if I didn't represent you correctly. Let's move on to the next item. Okay.
Shiva, do you want to do a small PR update there just to add this into the registry auth spec? How do you want to handle this? Or we'll just take it into implementation directly?
Yes, I think I will do a PR update on the credential file.
Okay, if you can, yeah, if you can ping that to me, I'll get that approved.
Okay, I have to let somebody else drive the screen in the next 10 minutes. So somebody get ready to drive screen. I have to bail here. So we covered, I think, Pritesh, if you're here, if you want to cover your item here.
It's just that I was hoping the PR needs to be reviewed. I think Rakesh and John will be blocked on that. So it'll be if you can expedite. Yeah, just requesting a review here.
Okay. Shive, can you add it to your list of things for this PR to be reviewed? You're requesting a review by Shive or by Roy?
Shive. Okay, if it's not. I think he's not in the meeting, so yeah.
I think this PR has been reviewed like 5 hours ago.
I think I added the comment. I have fixed the comment which you have added. Okay, I think, yeah.
Okay, so basically it needs to be reviewed again, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I will review that.
Thanks. Okay, let's go on to the next item. I think we just talked about 206, Milan, right? We covered that.
Yeah, we did.
Local key support, Milan, you want to have a quick discussion on this
if
one?
you can open that. So I think we need to, or at least one thing I wasn't sure of was, what does notation currently have? Do we have a test generate key pair command?
It's a question for Shiva, or
yeah.
Pardon?
For the local key experience, do we have a test command which generates the local unencrypted key and certificate?
Yes, we do have a command called notations generate test.
Okay. So I think the options we have are to retain that, to allow for testing. The risk is customers end up using it anyway for production use cases, because that's the easiest to start with, even though it is marked as a test command. The second option is, given the Golang's support for, I think PKCS 8 encrypted password, that encrypted key, that having vulnerabilities, we cannot rely on that. We can go with a custom encryption, which means we don't have compatibility with other tools that uses. I think those two are the options that I see. Either retain the existing one, which is unencrypted, still marked as a test command. And the second option is do custom encryption right now, which is not compatible with other tools. I think ideally where we want to be is figure out, for example, how to consume a key generated by a key insert generated by OpenSSL, or a key using standard format like PKCS 8 or PKCS 12, PFX. But I think that will take longer time to figure out, especially given that the support in Golang is spotty. So that's my feedback there. If there are figuring out the custom encryption will take more time. I think the shortest path is to retain that generate test cert command. We are doing a CLI spec review, CLI command review. I think we can take a pass over what that command needs to be appropriately named for it.
So I think what I'm hearing is, well, you're giving a fifth option to the 4 options that Roy gave earlier and saying let's maintain the test one and nothing else.
Yeah, I think that's probably the shortest path to getting to RC1 with some default way to test this without relying on signing plugins.
I think that's good for RC1. You can do with test in RC1 and then you can drop that test command in future because it was meant for test purpose anyway. And when
I was going to get to that next. Can we or can we not drop the test command after RC? Because it isn't a foolproof plan. You'll have customers still take dependency on that test command in some cases.
I mean, test is one-time generate the key, so it's backward compatible. You can drop the support, and I actually implemented the PKCS 8 there. Like we will provide a replacement feature and drop the old feature, which is already vulnerable.
Which means you'll have to have support to read the old keys, right? Unencrypted keys for signing.
Yeah, we will add the support for reading unencrypted keys. But we won't let them generate new ones.
Okay.
Roy, are you okay with that? Or you want to think about this?
I'm fine. Yeah, the question here is time to market. If we already have the test command, I would just leave it alone and leave it test for the time being until we have a longer time to do the right story. If we want to locally do it with PKCS 12, even that's a little weird on a Windows box. You'd rather put it in the cert store and use allow support local certs instead and HSMs. But I'm really trying to say, hey, if this is the shortest path and gives us the best functionality, then let's go with it.
I think there's probably a delta there. Shiva, do you know if the test cert, that command just generates a self-signed certificate? The reason I ask is the updated certificate requirements or certificate chain requirements, signature validation, etc., require there to be at least 2 certificates in the chain, a leaf and a root. So if the test generate just does a self-signed, we need to update that command to minimum have 2 certificates in the chain.
Yes, we probably need to do that. Can you create an issue for that?
Okay, sounds good. I'll create the issue.
It sounds like it's broken either way, right? But the new spec, that command is broken.
Yeah, that is right. I'll create the issue.
Okay, let's see. We covered this. The last one is release manager group needs to have access to notation core, go and roadmap repos. Milan, I have to shut down my computer in the next 3 minutes. Can you share your screen or drive this last item with or without screen?
We can drive it without the screen. Can you give context?
I don't know who added this. I thought you added this one. Release manager group needs to have access to notation core.
This is me who added this. Actually.
Oh, sorry, David.
So
okay,
yeah,
then.
I can drive that in my edit.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just going through and cleaning up the board, the milestone names based on what we just said, and I don't have access to the Notation Core Go or Roadmap repos. So Notation Core Go has no milestones, and then Roadmap repos, I can't add, for instance, those items to the main project because I don't have access to either of those. So somebody who has access to the release manager group should add that group to have access, similar to all the other repos that are there.
I agree that you should have the success. I don't know which amongst us have permission to do that. I believe Steve and the maintainers have. Steve's not here today. No.
Yeah.
Maybe no one on this call has the appropriate access to that. Okay. If not, it's fine. I just threw it out there.
No,
I can try and see. I haven't tried this before. Which project is this?
this will be the notation notary project, Nias. I think it's okay. I have to shut down my computer. But David, can you share your computer? I think you can go to that link where you need access to, right?
Yeah, so it would be the Notary Release Managers is a group. And then it looks like, so you just need to add that group to those two repos. I'm just trying to see who has a notation maintainers. I mean, I could share my screen, but it's the teams are here. And then the Notary Release Managers is the group that needs to have access to those two repos. Yes. Yeah, I don't think so, because it looks like, oh, well, no, you might. You're on Niaz, you're on the maintainers, but I'm not sure if, and Shiwei is part of that group as well. I just don't know if you have access to give our group to that. I don't.
They should.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's not drag the whole group into that. So I just wanted to raise it since we're here. I mean, we can take it offline with Niaz, you and me, or I can pull Steven if we need to.
Yeah, I think you and I can sort this out on Slack.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Right.
Right. I think we're at time. I don't know if we have anything else to cover.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Melinda, did you have anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I'm good.
No,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Okay.
no.
Thank you. All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.